Yeah, please tell me.
Yeah, so I am working as an editorial assistant and it's been 9 months. So for medical writing, I'm a fresher. So, what skill should I add in my life to, get into medical writing job? I'm working
So,
as a QC as a editorial assistant.
okay, so you are editing the what kind of documents, Shailaja, if I can
Uh,
ask? Are
for
these medical documents or like, are
for
these
manuscript, manuscript.
manuscripts? Okay, yeah. So if you are already aware about manuscripts, you will know the kind of language or what kind of writing is involved, isn't it, in manuscripts? Because you
Mhm.
are checking for language, the format and everything. So yes, you can, like I answered before also, you can probably evaluate yourself to be able to understand whether you have gained those skills over time while editing these manuscripts, to be able to understand whether you can write a manuscript, in bits and pieces or not. If you think you can, I would say that, take up smaller exercises where you can write something by yourself, right? May it be methodology section of a manuscript, or any other description of a study, or any such smaller pieces that you can take up to be able to understand whether you have gained those skills. If you have not, I would suggest that you look into the manuscripts that you are editing to see how the writing pattern looks like and what you can do to learn that.
Okay,
Does
thank
that
you.
help?
I'm Priyanka Naik. I'm placement officer at CliniLaunch Research Institute, and today we are hosting a guest series, that is fast forward guest series. And I am pleased to introduce Ms. Pratima Bhat ma'am, who is associate director of medical writing at Sinos Health, with over a decade of experience in the contract research organization, that is CRO industry. She has developed deep expertise across therapeutic areas and regulatory documentation. So, ma'am is known for her leadership in building and monitoring teams, coordinating with stakeholders, and enhancing business processes. And her collaborative approach and commitment to excellence make her a valuable asset in medical writing and regulatory affairs. So, all the students, please join me in welcoming Ms. Pratima Bhat, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Priyanka, and thanks to CliniLaunch for this opportunity. It's a wonderful opportunity to be able to share, insights into medical writing and what it can offer for people like us who come from science domain, and what is it that we can explore in this domain. And I'm looking forward to a great discussion. So let's treat this more as a discussion as opposed to a lecture. So feel free to stop me or interrupt me at any point in time when you have a question, or you want to understand something, or you have something to add on to what I might share. So feel free to. So like I said, today we will talk about what's medical writing, what are the different domains we have within medical writing, and who are the different audience for these domains, and what are the skills required for a medical writer. And I know I asked to talk about success stories, but I want to hear more from you towards the end of this session to understand what does success mean to you, right? And we can also look into what does a career look like within medical writing and what all options we can explore, right? So that's the agenda for today. Within medical writing, like I said, we'll get into different domains and who are the audience for these different domains, and what are the document types that you will be seeing within each domain, and what are the skills that are required for a medical writer, and career options within medical writing. Let's get into the first topic. That's what is medical writing, what are the domains, audience, and the document types, right? So I think most of us already know, coming from science background, and would have heard about medical writing a lot, would have read about what's medical writing, and would definitely have some background or some idea around it. So anybody would like to participate in this discussion and tell me what do they know about medical writing, or what is it that they would like to know from today's discussion about medical writing? Okay, I think we can do that towards the end of the session. So, as we all know, medical writing mainly involves preparation of documents that deal with medicines or healthcare, right? So, these documents can be ranging anywhere between a few page document to as huge as few hundreds. So you can understand that it would require a lot of communication of clinical or scientific data, and in different ways of communication. Like each document does not have a single purpose, right? Each document has its own purpose, each document has its own audience, which we will get in depth in the subsequent slides and see how communicating this data is not easy, right? And what is it that medical writing involves is basically communication, a lot of communication. So when I say medical writing involves preparation of documents, it's basically not just development of document. It involves a lot of handling of clinical and scientific data in different ways, and how you will also see how we interact with different stakeholders who are involved in this. And hence medical writing is not just the job of a medical writer, it's more of a collaborative effort of a larger team who are involved in conducting clinical trials, who are involved in planning clinical trials, who sponsor these trials, and different ethics boards. You will also see that there will be collaboration with regulatory authorities. And what is it that a writer does not do is a question that we should ask, because a writer does a lot more than just writing. So when we say medical writing, it just does not involve only preparation of documents, but yes, that is the core of this job. And you will see that at each stage of clinical development, right, or clinical trial, if I can say so, medical writing is involved. Here I have tried to include a very high level diagram for us to be able to easily understand. We mainly see that there is preclinical stage, then there is a clinical stage, and post-clinical stage when we talk about a drug development pathway or a life cycle, right? So you will see that at each stage there will be development of documents that is done. So, and you will also see that at each stage it won't just be a single document that will be required, it will be a set of documents. So if I can largely say, at every stage of clinical research, medical writing is needed. So you will be able to acknowledge the fact that medical writing is a key component of this entire clinical research domain. And you will be able to appreciate towards the end of this session how important is a role of a medical writer and how do we contribute to this area of clinical research. Let's get into different domains. I have tried to mainly categorize medical writing into three main domains here for the ease of understanding. So you can see that we have clinical and regulatory writing, for whom the audience mainly is regulatory authorities. As you know that we need approvals from different regulatory authorities, may it be to be able to conduct clinical trials, may it be to be able to evaluate whether a clinical trial is going in the right direction, or to be able to get a drug approved and get that into the market. So all of this won't happen without regulatory authority involvement. So one of the main audience for clinical and regulatory writing is regulatory authority. And then you will also see that for certain documents within clinical and regulatory writing, patients are the audience. For example, you might be aware about consent documents where patients' consent is needed to be able for them to be able to participate in clinical trials. Or there could be healthcare professionals who will be seeing some of these documents when we talk about clinical protocols, which details about how a study needs to be conducted, what are the stages and what are the tests that need to be conducted in a clinical trial, or how things need to be conducted at different sites. So healthcare professionals can also be one of your audience, or scientific community. Why scientific community? Because as I said, we work with a lot of people that could include your clinicians, your scientists, and different regulatory affairs people. So these are scientific community people who will also be audience. And then getting into the second domain, that's publications. So you might definitely be knowing, if you're from science background, that publications deal with creation of manuscripts, may it be abstracts, or any material that you develop for the audience who are aware about science, or mainly for the scientific community, if I can say so. Or if they want to see an article or any data presented in a conference or in a symposium, or it needs to be published in scientific journals, you will see that publication writer takes part in preparing these materials. Coming to medical communications, which somewhere has an overlap with publication writing, because it also has sometimes scientific community as the audience, or sometimes the audience could be your general public or patients who take the products, like who take the drugs, And it could sometimes also be healthcare professionals. Like I said, there might be materials that healthcare professionals need to be able to prescribe certain medicines to patients, or sometimes the consumers who consume the drugs or the products available in the market might need information about those products. So medical communication or medical communication specialists are involved in this domain, who write different responses to the queries that might arise from consumers or healthcare professionals, which we will see in detail in the subsequent slides. Now I'll try to get in depth into each of these domains and talk about what different things a writer does in each of these domains, and try to also list out a few documents if I can. So coming to regulatory medical writing, this has been my domain uh, throughout my career. So you might see that I might be tending to talk a bit more about regulatory medical writing compared to publications or medical communications, because I am very much fond of it and that's my domain. And yeah, so now let's try and categorize this for the ease of understanding into two main stages, right? Because I know that if we try to split up documents per this the nitty-gritty stages of clinical development of a drug, it gets more complicated, and we might not be able to cover that in the time we have. So let me just broadly categorize it into clinical trial stage. That means the documents that get developed or written when a clinical trial is under its pathway or it's happening. And next, going into post clinical trial stage, right? Once the clinical trial has been completed, what are the documents? And in between we have a few documents which might not fall in either of these stages, which we will look into. Right, coming to clinical trial stage, the documents that get developed are mainly, you will see investigator's brochure, which details about how any investigation is done. It gives out details about a particular product, its life cycle, what are the non-clinical information that we have on that drug, or what are the clinical information we have on that drug. So you can say that this is the main brochure which investigators use, in short, right? So it will be created once and then it keeps on getting updated. So you will also see original investigator brochures, or we call it as IB in short, and you will also see that there will be IB updates happening based on as and when data becomes available, right? And then we have clinical study protocols. Like I said in one of the previous slides, clinical study protocol is like the basic outline of how a clinical study will be conducted, right? So this is one of the critical documents for the best practice, I would say, for while conducting a study, which investigator needs to refer to make sure that everything that is done at the study site is conducted per the clinical study protocol. Now, talking about protocols, you will also see that there could be amendments happening, or there could be addenda that gets created. So what does this mean, or what do we do when we write an amendment or an addenda? Is basically capture something that needs to be either changed in a protocol or something that you would like to add in a protocol, right? Basically, you can just say that in simple terms, it's just an outline of a clinical study and needs to have each and every detail related to how a clinical study needs to be conducted. Coming to informed consent or assent forms, like I said, for regulatory medical writing, even patients can be an audience, right? So this is a document which goes to the patients. That means that the way you write this document cannot be the way you would write a protocol, because audience is patient, and we need to keep that in mind. So when you write this document, the language has to be simpler, scientific terminologies will need to be simplified and presented accordingly to patients, right? Coming to CSRs, or clinical study reports. So what does this do? Like I said, protocol is an outline for a clinical study. Clinical study report is detailing what are the results from that clinical study, right? So it will have almost equivalent terminologies like you would see in a protocol. That means objectives, endpoints, everything that will be aligning with that particular clinical study protocol. And the writer will need to then get data from, you have different teams who produce that, who collect data from a particular clinical study, and then the writer will get it to be able to write results in clinical study reports. So clinical study report will basically tell you a story of how a study was conducted, which will be taken from a clinical study protocol, and it will also tell you what were the results that were observed in that particular clinical study, right? So when you talk about writing clinical study reports, a writer needs to understand how to be able to interpret data, to be able to draw results, and to be able to present that in a report. So we will also see some of these skills when we get into the later part of this discussion. And coming to safety narratives, right? So these are a part of clinical study reports, but sometimes it is independently done by a writer or by a team of writers, as sometimes the number will be huge in terms of thousands. And to be able to for this medical writer who is assigned for a CSR, it is really going to be a challenging thing to do. So hence sometimes you will have a different team covering safety narratives for clinical study reports. Now coming to post-clinical trial stage, what are the documents that we can see are sometimes safety profiles. These are the profiles that talk about how does safety or risk profile of a drug or a product look like. So it basically captures every safety signals that might have seen in the clinical trial development stage, and or post that, and it will capture entire safety risk profile of a particular drug, right? And then you will see safety update reports, like you will have PSURs or development safety update reports, which have particular criteria that they need to get updated within the requisite time or duration which a company needs to abide by. For example, if a company is producing a drug, or they are marketing a drug, there is something they need to abide by per the regulations, where they need to update these reports per se, once in 6 months, to be able to make sure that all the safety inputs that they are seeing after a clinical trial is completed gets updated. Some of these safety reports also get updated during the development stage as also. And we need to as well keep in mind that safety is a very important aspect of any clinical trial, and not just the efficacy of a drug, right? So it's one of the main documents that you can see. And a similar document is risk management plan, which states what are the risks associated with a drug, how it can be managed, and what's the basis for that, right? And you will also see some of the proprietary documents, which could be data sheets or labels, which a company holds as proprietary information, because that will be a key until it is marketed. Of course, we all get to see that patient leaflets or package inserts or labels which talk about what is a drug, how it can be taken, what's the maximum dosage, what is the route, all those details you might have seen. And then coming to results disclosure, which sometimes you can also see as lay language summaries, or there could be different terminologies for that, which is again abiding by the regulations that once a result or once results become available for a clinical trial, how it needs to be disclosed to patients or to the consumers. It's again something written in a different manner, something similar to, like I talked about, informed consent forms, where language is simpler, where language is something that is understandable by patients or layman, right? So these are mainly different types of documents that you can see. Now coming to what I have mentioned at the center here, INDs or CTAs, right? These are investigation new drugs or clinical trial applications. These are mainly packages that will be submitted to regulatory authorities when we need approval for conducting trials, right? And then at the bottom, you will see there are summary documents or clinical overviews, which constitute a part of CTD, that's common technical document, which is again a package of everything that has been done for a particular drug or a product, which will include information from non-clinical till clinical to quality and every detail, right? So, and then you will also see NDAs or BLAs, which are similar packages. So now coming to these packages, you will see that this won't have just one document, right? So the writer will be involved in development of different documents, which at the end will go as a package to different regulatory authorities for their review and approval. Now, two categories that I have, two document types that I have specified here are briefing books and regulatory responses, right? These are mainly based on the purpose of why they are created. It may not really be particular to any specific clinical trial or any specific let's say a safety signal or any specific result. They are mainly based on what is the purpose of having them. Let's say a regulatory body needs any further inputs from the sponsor or somebody who is conducting a clinical trial, or they want to consider something for their clinical trial that could come up as a question through the regulatory authority to the company, and they might want to respond to that in a specific way as briefing book or as response to regulatory authority questions, right? So these are mainly based around what is the purpose of submitting them, and may not really have a same structure as you would see for a clinical study report or a protocol, because they are mainly based on the purpose of why they are being submitted to regulatory authorities, right? That is mainly high level overview that I can provide for regulatory medical writing. Moving to publications and communications, medical communications. So like I said, you all might have seen publications is one of the most common type of writing, or even medical communication for that matter, where you will see that it's mainly involving preparation of abstracts. It could be whether you want to present it in a symposium or in a conference, or for any other matter where it's mainly for the scientific community, right? Or if you want to submit any manuscripts in any journal, or you want to talk about, let's say there are drugs in the market already, and patients are consuming it, and they have questions around those products, they might be able to raise queries around that, and these companies who market these products are bound by the regulations to provide those responses and insights to patients, and sometimes even HCPs, that those are healthcare professionals, to be able to answer their queries and provide certain inputs. And here you will see that, like I talked about regulatory writing, right? Even publication writing is not just simply developing a few page document. It has its own pathway where a writer will plan the publication writing. There are many strategies involved, and also what is the intent of the submission, what is it trying to address, right? That's also something that a writer needs to consider. And what are the journals that publication is targeting, or the writer is targeting to have it submitted or published in, right? And coming to medical communication aspect of it, there are sometimes education materials, or sometimes you can also say product specific materials that medical information specialists develop. For example, if there is a product or a drug, all the details about that product, how something is developed, what is it going to do for the patients, how it can be prescribed, what are the prescribing details. Like product specific materials is also something that is written in a very scientific language, unless it is the audience is for example, somebody who may not be really aware of all the in-depth details, when in which case the writing style would be different. So this is about publications and medical communication in brief. Now, when I talked about developing materials mainly for HCPs or for consumers, there are mainly two broad categories. You can say one is for promotional purpose, another one is non-promotional purpose, right? Talking about promotional, you have marketing brochures or advertisements. You might see that quite often, that sometimes brochures are written to be able to promote the product, so that whether it's healthcare professionals that they want to prescribe those to patients, or patients who want to consume those products, right? Or you will see advertisements as a marketing strategy to be able to communicate those data for a targeted audience, right? To be able to tell them how a product works, what are the advantages of using them, or how does it benefit them. And that's the mainly promotional aspect of it. Now coming to non-promotional, sometimes you will have to as writers, if you are interested in developing something called product monographs, where you are talking about a particular product, like I mentioned in the previous slide. What does it do? It is a detailed information about a particular product. It includes what indication is it targeting, what are the dosages you can prescribe it at, what are the possible side effects you can see. So these are mainly developed for healthcare professionals, because they will need to be able to make a judgment based on all this information, whether to prescribe certain medications to patients or not. So here the purpose is not promotional, it's basically stating the facts, right? So here you can see till now that what are the different documents and what is the different purposes each type of document has. And based on that, you probably will be able to acknowledge the fact that writing each document is not the same, right? And writing, even within each domain, there are different writing styles adopted, there are different purposes involved. So we will see that when it comes to the skills, and you will also see how a writer just does not write documents. If nothing, I'll move forward with the
Hi, ma'am.
skills. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, actually, is the scientific articles come under this category, like in medical writing?
Yeah, scientific articles, you mean publication writing. Yes, it does come
Yes.
under medical writing. And like I said, even publication writers coordinate with clients. They also coordinate with different stakeholders to be able to understand, like I said, what is the journal they want to, the client wants to target to get or get an article published, right? And what study is it they are writing the publication for? So yes, publication writing or article submission, that's very much part of medical writing as well.
Yeah, okay. Does it come under promotional or non-promotional?
No, it is non-promotional because you are not going to promote your product saying that you need to prescribe to that or you need to use that. You're basically, for example, if there is a clinical study for product X, what does that manuscript, let's assume that we are writing a manuscript, right? So what does it do? It will talk about a particular study that has been done using that particular product, right? So it will state that, these were the observations from this study for product X. It is not going to say that you need to use product X and, it'll do this or that. It'll just basically state facts in a scientific manner. It's non-promotional.
Yeah, okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Yes, please.
Ma'am, I had a question. I wanted to know where there is more scope. Is it more scope in regulatory writing or in publication writing?
Everybody in this domain, every writer, may be a regulatory writer or a scientific writer, they have their own career path that they would like to pursue, and it's not like which one has more scope. I would mostly say, what is your writing style, right? That will be a driving factor to be able to understand whether you want to go into regulatory writing or publication writing, and what is it that what is it that you want to do. Because I wouldn't say that there is any difference in scope between regulatory writing or scientific writing. They both have their own career prospects, if I can say so. And you will see that people have achieved a lot in each of these domains. So I would say, to be able to identify, like I said, regulatory writing, where you might need to deal with developing hundreds of pages of document, compared to a manuscript, which probably would be let's say 10 or 15 pages, or sometimes even abstracts can be much shorter, right? So it's dependent on what skill sets you have, what is it that you want to do. But I would say scope is there. Okay, I'll take any other questions towards the end. Moving to skills, like I think I mentioned it quite a few times by now, that medical writing is not just writing, there is more than writing involved. So here, this, you will see that the building blocks for any medical writer is the content, which is going to be scientific, which is going to be around clinical research, a clinical study, or a drug product, right? But you need to be able to recognize the fact that you need to know how to use templates, because that would help you to streamline the writing process, right? There is an outline that's available. You need to be able to understand what's that outline, how to put content into that, and how to structure that content, and to be able to draft based on the sources that you see. So you see that it's just not writing. There is a lot of planning involved, there's a lot of technicalities involved, and you will see that people just don't write documents. They do, of course it is the center part of their job, but they do much more than that, which surrounds, you will see, knowledge based skills, where a writer is expected to have a strong foundation in life science, medicine, or any scientific related domain knowledge. They also need to have a good hold of therapeutic areas, because you may not really work on only one therapeutic area. In your career, you will work on multiple studies, which will be ranging from various therapeutic areas, which will deal with a lot of different types of endpoints, different types of lab measures, different types of assessments and outcomes involved in each study, right? And you will also need to be aware of statistics. Now, there could be a question, statistics is way different to writing or medical writing, but it's not. A medical writer needs to be aware of statistics, but it's not necessary that we are experts at statistics, because we cannot be statisticians unless we have done some course which makes us statisticians, of course, which probably is a possibility. But a writer needs to have basic knowledge of statistics. And why so? Because you will know that each study, each clinical study, utilizes statistics in its own way. So when a writer is handed over with source documents to be able to draw any inference, to be able to draw any conclusion from a study needs to be aware of what's the statistical aspect involved in analyzing data to be able to present the results appropriately. So statistics is a knowledge-based skill that every writer needs to have, and also to be able to aware, I think the writer it's a skill that is not optional, to be able to understand what are the guidelines, what are the requirements for each and every document type. It's a basic skill, right? And coming to technical skills, writing, editing proficiency, of course, because we are going to write a lot and you need to be aware of how you are writing, right? So that proficiency needs to be there. Like I said, when it comes to stats, I mentioned about it, interpretation of data, right? So you will be handed with several documents as sources, but if you don't know how to interpret that data, you won't be able to write results, or you won't be able to do justice with that document that you're writing. So interpretation of data is a key skill for any writer. And coming to presentation, so like I said, you will be handling a lot of data when you're writing documents. So accuracy, clarity, and compliance with guidelines is something that's very important, because if you are presenting any data inaccurately, if you're doing mistakes in writing data and presenting data, that's going to go to the regulatory authorities for review, so you can understand what implications it might have, right? So attention to detail, I know that it's a part of each and every job, but as a writer, when you're handling a lot of data, multiple projects, and like I said, some documents can run into hundreds of pages, if you don't have the skill to pay attention all the time to details involved in data, you might miss out a lot in presenting data and results in your documents, right? To be able to follow templates, style guides, or any specific requirements, may it be in terms of development processes, sometimes you might have to work on different document management systems, tools that you might need to use for different clients, which might vary, right? And different platforms, like I said, to be able to understand different platforms is a key skill, because you are writing the documents or developing documents on different platforms for different clients. And it's also possible that if you are not aware of that, it might really get challenging towards, how you handle your projects, which falls under, project management skills, which is a bucket under soft skills, if I can say so, which talks about, if you see the list here, you might think that this has nothing to do with writing. Why am I talking about these skills, right? So like I said, sometimes as you move up the ladder, you will not just be a writer, you will be handling your own projects, or you will be handling huge projects with other writers, where a lot of project management skills are required, a lot of communication skills are required, how you manage your time, how you multitask, right? And how do you communicate with your sponsors, with your internal stakeholders. That matters a lot, and it really is something that every writer works on as they spend more time in the industry and gets better at, right? So you will see that training and mentoring becomes a part when you try to move up from individual contributor. It's a key part of your growth as well, right? And critical thinking, of course, and innovative mindset. Why? um, like I said, you interact with a lot of stakeholders, including clients, sponsors, and people from, maybe clinical domain, or some people from pharmacokinetics. And, if you don't know how to solve a problem or a challenge that comes your way, it will kill a lot of your time. It will also kill a lot of efficiencies. So the more you can have as a skill, which is problem solving, I would say that makes your life easy as a writer. I know I mentioned stakeholders a few times, but let's see like why it's important, why collaboration and stakeholders is a slide here. Because as a writer, day in and day out, you just don't work alone. You work along with a lot of people, and making sure that you're collaborating well with them and effectively communicating well, it's it's a key skill of a writer. And I can't pay enough stress on this, because once you start working on projects, you will realize that as a writer, you just don't need the writing skill. You need much more than that. So here you will see that top three, who are statisticians, programmers, data managers. Um, these people mainly handle data, right? So when I said as a writer, you will be provided with a lot of data, you will be provided with outputs such as tables, figures, or listings, or as different documents from these team members who handle data. And then during the development of documents, you will be interacting with medical team, PK scientists, or clinicians, or study conduct team. to be able to understand what to present, what not to present in your documents, right? And then of course you will be working with clients and sponsors to understand and also to get their review inputs. And also you will have your supporting team members who will be your peer reviewers, who will peer review your documents, and QC and editing who will make sure that whatever you're writing is accurate and per the requirement, and publishers who will publish your documents, right? And there might be other stakeholders involved apart from what I have mentioned, based on individual cases, right? It could be regulatory affairs or medical affairs or project managers or other vendors if they are involved in studies, or other stakeholders. So you will be probably able to acknowledge the fact that writers don't just work in silos, they actually work with a lot of other people day in and day out. So I will I think this would be a repetition if I go through this in detail, because I think I have covered it, why stakeholder collaboration is very important and a key skill for every writer. You will see that a writer, for example, when I talked about that sometimes you need to develop huge documents, right? You just don't develop that alone as a writer. It's more of a team effort. Hence effective communication and following streamlined processes to be able to collaborate with stakeholders effectively, to be able to understand how to collaborate with them, to be able to recognize what is it that I need from each stakeholder to be able to develop a good document is a key skill. And the more we work on projects, you will be able to understand what to do, how to handle, right? So you, like I said, communication, collaboration is something very key for each writer. Any questions till now? I know I was given 40 minutes. We do have a few more minutes to be able to see what does a career in medical writing look like. But any questions on skills or anything till now, I'm happy to take.
Students, you're all requested to please ask questions. I think you should seize the moment and make the most of it. Please go ahead and ask questions.
Yeah, this is Mrs. Jayanti from Chennai, ma'am.
Yeah, hi Jayanti.
Yeah, nice meeting you. It was really informative. Ma'am, can I just come to the point right away? What is the skill that you want in a medical writer?
that's a great question. If you ask me, um, like I said, writing is your main job, right? But I would say that having presence of mind, because I know that it probably is not a common answer you would hear if you would ask this question. Why I say that is sometimes the data will be in front of our eyes, the data will be in our hands, but sometimes it just slips your mind. Sometimes you just miss to notice something. So I would say that I know it's not a specific skill for this domain per se. It is applicable to any domain that we go into or we get ourselves into, right? But as a writer, as a medical writer especially, if your presence of mind or that attention, the span of attention is not good, really it gets challenging.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, I'll yeah.
But no, I had a question. Shweta this side.
Yes, Shweta, please tell me.
Since AI is everywhere and upgrading or upskilling yourself with the tools and algorithms of AI has become a must for everyone. I just wanted to understand, would it affect the people who want to get into the profession of medical writing? And if they are in the said profession, how an upskilling is going to help them?
Yeah, that's a good question, Shweta, and I do share that concern, right? But something here we need to understand, and the fact that these are tools, right? These are at the end, they are not humans, right? So they are here to make our lives easy, right? So if you take it that way, you will be able to understand, or you will be interested to understand how you can use these tools to be able to make your work easy, to be able to increase your efficiency, right? For example, if there is a tool which extracts data from files, why would I rather not use it and deliver my projects faster, right? And in a shorter, probably more efficiently. Whereas if you think it from the perspective of, okay, it's taking away my work, then that's going to be a whole different mindset, right? Now, I would say that the tool probably won't be able to interpret data like you can, or I can, or anybody else can. But what it can do is probably help make my work easier, to be able to pull out some information that probably is like, let's assume something that could be copy pasted, right? If I take 5 hours to copy paste some things from a huge file, if it can do in a few minutes, why not, right? But interpreting data accurately, still presenting it properly, is still going to be my job as a writer, right? So definitely this is a hot topic. That's, you will see that there are hundreds and thousands of posts going around on this topic, and you will definitely, of course, everybody is wondering, is it going to, have an impact on my job? What am I going to see? What does my future look like? But if we try to explore it in a way how that can make my work easier, right, that's going to really be a positive thing that we can all adopt.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'll move ahead. Talking about success, I know success is something that we all see differently, right? So I might see it in a way that makes sense to me, and somebody else might see it in a way that makes sense to them. So instead of telling about different stories, I wanted to provide a picture of what can a career in medical writing look like, so that you all can, define your own success in this domain according to what you want to do. So like I said, it's just not writing. So here you see that I have tried to split this into four main areas. Some people are writers who write documents. That means they develop documents for targeted audience. Some people do QC, that's quality check, which includes data validation. And some people edit the files and format the files as per the requirements to make sure that, it's in a good shape to be submitted to different audience, right? And some people publish the files, means they make sure that whatever Word documents that we develop is submission ready and it's in a good shape to be able to submit in a proper format that's required by the agencies. Now, on the right hand side here, I have provided you a kind of a ladder. So here you will see that at entry level positions, you have, you can be a writer, you can be a QC specialist, editor, or a publisher, right? Where you will be basically learning what are the skills that you need to be able to exist in this industry, or to be able to further your level in the ladder, right? And in advanced positions, like may it be senior medical writers or senior QC specialist, what you will do, you will not just be an individual contributor just responsible for the assigned, let's say, task. You will be leading projects, which means that you should be able to work with your junior writers or your associate writers, and you should be able to train them or mentor them so that you can achieve a goal that is a team goal, right? Delivering as a team. And you being the lead writer, is that means that you have advanced your position, right? Or you can get into specialized areas. Like sometimes what happens, people don't really want to get into managerial role, or in a role where they need to manage people. They want to have their own specialization, let's say in technical domain. So they just want to learn or advance their skills in writing specifically, or they just want to specialize in QC or in editing. So that's also an option that you can explore. Getting further in this topic, you will see that here, like I said, this is the ladder that I have tried to provide here as an example. And it can vary from a company to different company, because this industry is very wide and each company has their own career ladder or pathway that you can say. So this is mostly high level and not specific to a designation. I have tried to generalize it so that we all can understand what are the different options that we can pursue, right? Like I said, here you will see that pursuing core in your technical domain is an option, and that would mean that you can train or mentor people. For example, it could be on a particular document type, it could be in a particular indication or therapeutic area, and you can lead portfolios. For example, if we take that there is a disclosure area or there is a publication writing area, you can lead those portfolios technically, right? Without having to manage people or without having to get into the business aspects of it, right? Now, if you want to get into those aspects, which I said, for example, people management, or you want to manage a team, right? So then you have skills, or you will be required to understand how to manage people. What are those skills that that you can learn by leading different projects, huge projects, by working with many people? That will help you gain people management skills, and then you can move to managerial roles or managerial positions where you take care of a group of people and you will be responsible for them, right? Or you can also act as oversights. Now why I have added this oversight is when we talk about people management, mainly people think that okay, you are just being a line manager. Sometimes there are roles which can be a blend of taking care of your group of people but also being the oversight. Maybe for a particular client you are the oversight, or you might have a group of clients for whom you are the oversight, meaning that you're not just taking care of people who are working for the specific clients, but you're also taking care of the client relationship that you are trying to build, right? So these are some of the options. And here if you see, as we start off in this industry, you can be a support writer where you start your career by supporting, the lead writer, so that you learn the basic skills, and then you individually become a contributor by yourself, and then you become a project lead. That means you have your own project for which you are the lead. By working with other fellow writers or your associate writers, you gain those skills of how to lead a team, right? And then you can be a trainer or a mentor. That means that you are now in a position, or you have gained experience that's enough to train people or mentor people on anything that could be ranging from a concept or to a document type or any particular domain, right? And then you have management roles where your management role can be of two different types, I would say, because managing a project or managing a client team and managing people, right? So these are two different aspects. Of course, people, we are an integral part of each and everything that we do here, isn't it? So managing people or managing client teams or projects, these are all types of management roles. And then higher management roles, that means you have a team who are those people who also have team members, right? So in management roles, if I can talk about people management, you are directly the line manager, right? Now when I talk about higher management, you are in a role where you are responsible for line managers, right? Those are higher management roles. Then coming to the next levels could be that, you are responsible for business. You are in leadership roles where you have to get into the business aspects of projects or client relationships, and you are also oversights, like I talked here about client oversight roles, or people management roles or people oversight roles, right? So these are here some of the options that I could provide with. Now what does success look like for you is depending on what do you want to pursue in this domain, what is the career that you want to build for yourself, right? I'm open to taking any questions. Apologies if I was not able to touch each and every minute details, because I know that this is a very vast domain and it's not possible to cover everything, but I'm open to answering any questions that you might have.
Hi, ma'am. Actually, I had a doubt regarding this career option. Like, I'm
Yeah.
from a pharma background, and if is there any opportunities like working in abroad in this kind of field, or is it only in India?
Um, you mean specifically within medical writing, right?
Yeah, is there any like abroad countries are also like giving opportunities to work as a medical writer in their country?
Medical writing is an option that's available worldwide, Deepak. So this is not something that you probably might be thinking. It's not just in India, it's there everywhere. So even as writers, we work with people across different time zones, different locations. So yes, it's an option that's available across the world.
Okay, ma'am. So it's not limited to a particular region or a country. So
No,
if
it's not.
I'm working as for example, if I worked as a medical writer 3 years here in India, and if I'm
Mhm.
applying for somewhere UK or US, so I can able to go over there and work, right?
Yes, definitely. You can show your experience because, like I said, these domains don't change. But definitely, like if you're talking about regulations or regulatory bodies, what is it that you have experience in? That definitely will be counted, and these roles exist across all the countries that I can think of and across the world. So yes.
Thank you.
Hi, hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening. Please tell me.
Actually, my question is regarding a medical writing. As a career, if you want to take as a freelancer or as a desk job, which is
Yeah.
better?
Okay, better. That's a question. So I know that many people are freelancers and working freelance in a freelancing way, right? But it's difficult to comment about what's better because it's dependent on what is it that you want, right? For example, some people find that they just want to work when they have time, right? Or it's something that they probably the situation is that they cannot commit to a full-time job. Whereas if you have that passion or drive that you can commit to a full-time job and you want to make a full-time career within a domain, then I think your full-time job is better. But again, it depends on what is it that you can probably afford to do. Like, can you commit to a full-time job, or you want to pursue something when you have time, right? So it depends totally on an individual situation. So
Hi,
Thank you.
yeah, hi, sure.
good evening. I'm working as a senior medical reviewer or clinical data analyst. Does my experience counts for medical writer if I'm applying for this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think Shiba, right?
Yes.
So if when I talked about the career ladder, like some of us start QCing, right, as our initial stages of our career, and we may not directly become writers, right? So definitely, if you have that skill for writing, if you are able to do justice with interpretation of data, which I'm sure you might already be aware of how to interpret data because you are already reviewing the files,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
definitely that's going to be an added advantage for you, Shiba. And definitely, if you are a QC reviewer, or even as document reviewers, if you have the right skills, definitely you can try for a writer role.
Yes, I have an experience in QC also. Like,
Yeah,
Can I ask
definitely.
another question? Hello.
Yeah, please tell me.
See, they're very different fields in medical writing. Talking about regulatory fields and educational writing. According to the three, which is more important? I mean, the more what do you say? More highly paid. I'm talking about.
Highly paid. That's a tricky question, Priyadarshini. Payment, I don't think the salary is, it's a matter of in which domain you're working. It's basically at what level you're working, right? And what does a pay scale or pay range look like for each role in this industry or within a company that you are working, right? So what is important or not, like I said, all of these domains are important, because if you see the audience, the slide that I showed you, right, if you see the audience, you will see that all are important, because without having to go through regulatory authority approval, a drug cannot come into a market, right? Or if you talk about publications, without having to submit in journals, people won't be aware of many things that are happening. Or without have healthcare professionals being aware of what does a drug do, that is medical communication, right, it won't really work. I would say all of these together make up that entire domain for a reason, right? So all of that is important. I think when it talk about medical writing, it's basically communicating medical data, which you can understand that if any of this piece is missing, you will understand that it's not going to give a complete picture, right? So I would say that all of these three are important.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Hi, ma'am.
Yeah,
Ma'am,
hi.
have you ever received regulatory feedback that required revisions to your submitted document? If you experienced that, could you please share how you handle that situation?
Sorry, I didn't get your question fully, but let me try to frame it. So you mean to say that if I have written a document that has gone to a regulatory authority and they came back with revisions, is that the question?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, yes,
Okay,
yes, ma'am.
no, that has not happened. So fingers crossed it won't happen. But yeah, I will say that, see, the regulatory authorities can come back for multiple reasons. It won't just be for what you have written, right? It can be
Okay.
for data itself, right? For example, if you have written a clinical protocol and it has gone to regulatory agency, they might come back with questions or more inputs on, for example, aspects like study designs, right? Or they might want you to have some additional exploratory objectives or endpoints where they want you to further research your drug product in a particular indication, right? So those might be the aspects they might come on. That won't be an indication that you have not written the clinical trial protocol properly. So am I making sense? Because these two are different things, and the way you should see these things as that sponsor needs to handle these questions to be able to address those regulatory authority inputs or questions, right? Though they won't reflect on medical writer per se. Does that help?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Thank
Okay,
you.
sure. I think we are on time unless anybody else has any other question.
Ma'am, I have a question. Actually,
Yes,
ma'am,
please.
I'm a quality assurance professional working currently from past 8 years. Now if I am switching to medical writing, what will be the uh, better thing that will happen considering the quality assurance experience?
Quality assurance, if I can ask you, Lokesh, so are you like, checking the documents for
Yes,
data
ma'am.
validation? So
Yes,
you're
yes.
checking the files, okay, as
Giving
more
notes,
like data validation, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah, so definitely, like I said, even for one of the prior questions, if you have those writing skills, right, you can still give a chance and explore medical writing roles, definitely, because if you have spent quite a few years in QC or in data validation of documents, right, it gives you a lot of skills to be able to understand data, how to interpret. So if you have given that chance to yourself to see whether you are able to write any bits and pieces of a particular document, you will be able to understand whether you can be a writer or not. So I would suggest that you take up those kind of exercise while you are doing QC to be able to understand whether you have gained those skills or not to be able to become a writer. But definitely it's an option that you can try, because it seems like if you're doing data validation, you might be aware of what are the how does writing look like.
Okay, ma'am. Thanks.
Yeah, hi ma'am, this is Sadia.
Yeah, hi Sadia.
Yeah, actually I'm the fresher for this field. So if I want to crack the seat of medical writer, so what kind of questions I have expect from this interview purpose?
So yeah, that's an interesting question, because as a
Yeah, yeah.
fresher, yeah, for freshers, when you get into this domain, I think the main thing that people might look for is how you can communicate, how you can write, right? Or you have your basic communication skills in place or not, and what is your basic awareness about, let's say, clinical research domain, right? So those would be the basics that people would definitely ask you for or look when you apply for these roles.
Okay, I am
Does that answer?
from PharmD background. Should I
Yeah.
eligible for this medical writer?
Yeah, you can definitely give it a try, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, please tell me.
Yeah, so I am working as a editorial assistant and it's been 9 months. So for that, for medical writing, I'm a fresher. So what skill should I add in my life to get into medical writing job? I'm working
So
as a QC as a editorial assistant.
okay, so you are editing the what kind of documents, Shailaja, if I can
Uh,
ask? Are
for
these medical documents, or like, are
for
these any
manuscript, manuscript.
manuscripts? Okay, yeah. So if you are already aware about manuscripts, you will know the kind of language or what kind of writing is involved, isn't it, in manuscripts? Because you
Mhm.
are checking for language, the format and everything. So yes, you can, like I answered before also, you can probably evaluate yourself to be able to understand whether you have gained those skills over time while editing these manuscripts, to be able to understand whether you can write a manuscript in bits and pieces or not. If you think you can, I would say that take up smaller exercises where you can write something by yourself, right? Maybe methodology section of a manuscript, or any other description of a study, or any such smaller pieces that you can take up to be able to understand whether you have gained those skills. If you have not, I would suggest that you look into the manuscripts that you are editing to see how the writing pattern looks like and what you can do to learn that.
Okay,
Does
thank
that
you.
help?
Students, I hope you all have asked your questions. Um, Pratima, thank you so much for firstly taking out the time from your busy schedule and to have this session with the students. I can see a lot of positive comments coming in for your session, and I think students are requesting to have all together a new session with you. So thank you so much, and we wish to have many more such engagements with you, provided you have the time and bandwidth,
Yeah,
and we'll be thrilled to host you. So
definitely, Shweta. Because
thank
I was in their shoes once upon a time, isn't it? So I can very well connect with these questions and with the audience, because um, you might be able to appreciate the fact that when we started our career, we didn't really have a lot of people who used to, like, tell
absolutely.
us, like, what were the options, how to move forward. So it's basically that that kind of coaching that we are here to provide. So I would be glad to be able to help in any way that I can.
Thank you so much. That is very kind of you. And we look forward to hosting you all over again. And in case if you come up with any internship or something wherein you need freshers who can be mentored under you, please do think about us. I'm sure the students would be thrilled. So thanks a ton from the entire CliniLaunch community. And we look forward to having you all over again. Have a wonderful evening ahead of you.
Thank you so much, Shweta, for this opportunity. And yeah, it really was a wonderful discussion. Thank you, audience, as well.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.